Am I the asshole for telling my stepdaughter she can have her dead dad pay for the wedding? Edit. She is 27 right now.
I may have gone too far. My now wife divorced her ex when her 3 kids were young.
He was an addict. She met me a few years later and we dated for 2 years before she introduced me to her kids. 2 kids really hit it off and Kelly did not like me.
Just passive-aggressive stuff, but it became much worse when her dad passed away.
She did not take it well and resulted in a lot of outbursts. I wasn't living there at this time. She went into therapy but overall didn't seem like it helped. She threatens to run away if I married their mom. So I stayed away but continued to date their mom. Over time, the 2 other kids started to stay at my place in order to get away from the drama. It was a rough time for them and we bonded even more.
When Kelly was 18, the 2 of us decided to stop putting our life on hold and get married. Kelly hated this.
The other kids were happy though. Every interaction I have had with her has been unpleasant and I don't not see her or one of my kids. I eventually adopted her siblings when they were 16 and 17.
They asked me. During that time she destroyed a lot of her siblings' stuff for betraying their dad. Now I rarely see her and I prefer it that way. The 2 kids have a on-and-off relationship.
I paid for my 2 kids' wedding. I got a call from her asking me to pay for her wedding since I paid for the other 2. I told her no. This started an argument about how it's unfair. I had enough and told her to have her dad pay for the wedding. She hung up after some lovely names. I may have gone too far, which makes me a jerk.
Yeah, it was a stupid, hurtful and immature thing to say, but I get it.
I understand this was the oldest girl and probably closest to her father and of course, she probably resented the divorce. But that's something you should grow out of. Once her father died. You'd think it might have opened up her heart a little, but apparently that was not to be. And so be it. It's her life. It's her choice.
But it takes a lot of balls to then come skipping back and wanting you to pay for her wedding.
I don't blame you for refusing, but I am curious as to what your wife thinks.
A tiny YTA on the comment.
A big not the asshole on not paying for the wedding.
Kelly obviously took it too far by practically forbidding her mom from moving on and for punishing her siblings for deciding to bond with you. But still, having a dead parent is something traumatic and you bringing it up just to make a point in an argument is really low.
Not the asshole.
She doesn't get to be a cruel brat for years and then pull a surprised Pikachu face when someone throws it back at her.
Maybe now she will consider the gravity of her shitty behavior. You were in the right to say no. You'd have been in the right to say, because I pay for my kids' weddings.
But taking a swing at her dead dad was a bit too far.
If she didn't want to accept you,
don't pay for her wedding.
Stick to your guns.
Yeah. She's an entitled brat to think she can treat you like garbage and then expect you to fund her wedding.
However, you sure acted like garbage when you mocked her for having a dead father. You owe an apology, but not a wedding fund. Am I the asshole for not declining or signing over my portion of my ex-BF's life insurance payout to his mom? I recently learnt that my ex-boyfriend passed away of cancer in March. His mom called me last week to inform me of his passing and to inform me that myself and her are listed as beneficiaries on his life insurance from his employer. She instantly tells me that she doesn't know why he never changed it, but I can decline or sign the check over to her once I receive it. Instantly I am in shock. He's gone?
And he left me on there?
Why? I went back and forth wondering if this was on purpose or accidental. It had been years, approximately 6, since we mutually civilly split up. I was informed he had a new girlfriend that lived with him and she has 2 kids from a previous relationship that threw a wrench into things more. Is there a reason she never got put on it? Was this all just a big mistake? Today it has been 1 week and this has been very hard, especially since his mom has been terrorizing me all week trying to get me to agree to give her this money. She has said the most hurtful things, and has sent me the most disrespectful photos and video of her son in his last moments.
As of right now I haven't even gotten in touch with the insurance company. I have no idea how much this is or if I need a lawyer's help at this point. Well, today is the day I woke up knowing 100% I am keeping this money and I am not going to feel bad at all for helping my family with a gift my ex left for me.
Unfortunately, part of me still wonders if it's the right thing to do by my ex. And if these were his wishes in the end. A little info to add. My home burnt to the ground 3 years ago, July 20th, and October 1st. 2 years ago my mom passed from cancer as well. It has been a long hard few years, and this money would literally buy myself a new bra for the first time in 3 years.
My little clan could really use this money, and I think my ex knew that.
You are the asshole. I'm shocked by all the not the asshole responses. Legally you may be entitled to this money, but I have a very hard time believing anyone would leave their ex of 6 years ago on their life insurance on purpose when they have a family and a partner with kids.
You're a huge asshole for keeping it. I don't know how you're managing to justify this to yourself.
Not the asshole, but I will be getting legal advice before spending a cent of it.
Depending on where in the world you live, these things can be contested in court.
You are the asshole. This money was not intended for his ex from 6 years ago. The mom is also asshole, but in the end you should do the right thing and give it to his mom. You are the asshole.
You rarely get promoted with work insurance to update details, and most of us just forget we even nominated someone in the first place. You haven't spoken to him. There's no hidden meaning in him leaving it to you, it's clearly an oversight. You say you're guilt-free. You aren't, because you asked the question here presumably to assuage your conscience. Sorry, but the very fact that you are asking means you know you're wrong and that it's not what was intended.
I may be in a minority, time will tell, but you know in your heart that it's wrong. You want the validation of strangers, and I would personally try to do what your own conscience is telling you.
If you genuinely believe it's okay and only you know him here, then that's up to you. We both know you don't, though.
You are the asshole.
You've been in no contact for the last 6 years. You didn't even know he has cancer. He has a new life, without you, and it is obvious to any sane person that he simply forgot.
Legally you are probably entitled to get that money, but morally you are a greedy asshole using an unexpected opportunity.
Not everything what is legal is right.
You are the asshole. You know he didn't leave you that money.
Why would he?
More likely it slipped his mind and never changed his policy. Am I the asshole for telling my former social worker I don't credit her for my good outcome? I'm a former foster kid who ended up with an incredible foster family who eventually adopted me when I turned 18 because I wanted to create those legal ties with them. I credit them with giving me a good life after 7 years of a shit one. But I don't credit my former social worker for that success at all. So background. My mom lost custody of me when I was 5 and her older kids when they were 11 and 12. They had a different dad to me. I'm not sure what happened there, but when we were first taken from our mom we were placed with a family member who eventually decided she didn't want us, and we were then placed in the same foster home. But my half-siblings hated me. They were always telling me I shouldn't have been born, trying to make me cry. They said my dad was dead and they were glad because he was shitty and that I was shitty too and I should be dead like him. I never knew who my father was and I don't know his name. No name on my original birth certificate. This started before we were taken into care but continued until I was finally separated from them after an incident when I was 6. I was placed in 7 different foster homes before finding my family. My former social worker fought against me and my half-siblings being separated, and even when she lost the ability to keep us together, she insisted on visits between the 3 of us. I told her how they treated me. I recorded it once with my family's camcorder and she didn't care. The visits stopped once my half-siblings aged out of the system. It was such a relief to no longer have them in my life. I knew they hated me. I was terrified of seeing them. I used to not eat and sleep before those visits, and my parents tried to protect me, but they were ordered to maintain the visits. Even after they ended, my former social worker would tell me I should keep in touch with my half-siblings and she'd tell me I'd thank her one day. I ran into my former social worker recently and she approached me and said I was one of her best success cases. I didn't want to hear it and I told her I don't credit her for that good outcome. That she forced me to endure years of bullying and verbal abuse at the hands of bio siblings who she knew hated me and insisted it was in my best interest when it was the worst thing she could have done. I told her that I hope she learned from it and does better, but I'll never give her the credit for how great my life has become. I walked away from her, and then last week I ran into her again and she told me I had no reason to be so bitter and hateful toward her and that I will one day see why she did what she did and understand she acted in my best interest. She told me to grow up and learn how to see nuance in these situations. I told her I wouldn't see shit any differently and she responded that I can't keep her a villain in my story forever. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. I used to not eat and sleep before those visits, and my parents tried to protect me, but they were ordered to maintain the visits.
The SW shouldn't have insisted on visits when you became of sufficient age and understanding to say you didn't want them and why.
More so when your parents supported that. I was one of her best success cases.
That's unprofessional.
It's not for her to make that assumption or repeat it to you.
Ditto the villain in the story. Comment.
I'm glad things turned out well for you.
If the childhood things you went through do intrude as you go on, then please consider therapy. All the very best to you.
There should be a special prize for that level of assholery. Geez Louise.
No, sweetheart, you're not the asshole. But she needs to reflect seriously on who she was trying to help throughout that nightmare scenario, as I strongly suspect it had nothing to do with you.
Also very telling is her immediate desperate need for validation from you, subsequent complete dismissal of your own feelings, and the audacity to chastise you like you're still a child. She should not be in care. You need to report this social worker for harassment. You need to report her to her employer for harassing you in the street and seeking you out on multiple occasions. You need to say that such behavior re-traumatized due to her actions towards you as a child. You should also apply for a restraining order due to her ongoing harassment. Not the asshole.
But if she tells you to grow up, I'd ask for my file. Look up if your complaints were correctly recorded, and if not, write a formal complaint to her supervisor.
If she wants you to grow up,
act like an adult.
Woman shrugging. Not the asshole. Career bureaucrat who thinks her one-size-fits-all approach is always best despite the fact every case is different. She will never see what she did wrong, but you sure as hell don't have to agree with her delusions.
If she ever says she can't always remain the villain to you again, I would respond with something like, "Wanna bet?"
Not the asshole.
Sometimes people need the hard truth. Years ago I ran into a elementary teacher who had the nerve to say to me she felt my success was on her. Meanwhile, the woman was a huge bully, and by today's standards as a teacher she'd be in jail. I would have said to her, "People like you are the reason your profession can get a bad name."
The fact she has a hero complex says to me she's not in it for the right reasons. Am I the asshole? My stepdaughter's daughter mentioned me in her graduation speech, and not my stepdaughter. I'm sorry, this title is absolutely horrid. I'll try to make this make sense. I'm 62F.
My stepdaughter, Kay, has been in my life since she was 8.
I met my late husband when I was 34 and he was 37. Kay is his daughter from his previous marriage. We got married when Kay was 11. She was close to her mother, so she never considered me a mother, but we had a good relationship. Unfortunately, my husband and I weren't able to have children.
Just after Kay finished high school, she got pregnant. She'd only been dating her boyfriend for a few weeks and he didn't want to stay with her.
Kay really wanted to keep the baby though,
but she was planning to go out of state for college, so we had a long talk about it.
Her mother didn't want to be involved as she was very disapproving of the whole thing. She was, justifiably I suppose, angry at Kay for making stupid choices that could alter her future, and Kay sort of pulled away from her after that. So I quit my job to raise her baby, H.
Kay decided to switch to a college closer to home so she could visit H every weekend.
She called almost every day to see her.
She was trying very hard to balance staying connected to her child and also setting up a decent future, but obviously H was much closer to me.
I was with her every day until she was 4, and she only saw her mom once a week and on video call. I tried telling her that Kay was her mom and I was grandma, and she didn't call me mom, but she was closer to me. After college, Kay did a postgrad degree for 3 more years. Then she moved back to our city. She tried really hard to build a close relationship with H, but by that time she was 7, and even though they did become close, she would always sort of come to me first for things. Kay was sad about this, but we didn't really talk about it. Eventually Kay got married and H lives with them, but she visits me multiple times a week and we text every day. Kay's dad also passed, which was really hard for both of us. So H just graduated from high school and she was selected to give a speech because she was a standout student. She called me and asked if it was okay if she mentions me. I said that's really sweet of her, and of course. Kay and her husband and I went to it together. In the speech, H talked about how her best childhood memories are the stories I told her, and it was really sweet. She only mentioned Kay in the bit at the end where you thank everyone who helped you get here and whatnot.
Kay didn't say anything during the party, but afterward she told me she felt like I always encouraged H to stay closer to me than her, like I was competing with her.
She said that I wanted to be a parent so badly that I took it from her. I just want some unbiased opinions. Not the asshole. Your stepdaughter just can't understand that you can't have your cake and eat it.
That was her decision to let someone else raise her child, while she was studying. You did enormous effort to help her, by quitting your job and taking care of her kid. While I might understand that you might have done it simply because you couldn't have your own kids, it doesn't change anything. You sacrificed portion of your life for both of them, and both of them should be grateful to you, and while your grandchild understands it, your stepdaughter doesn't.
You didn't take anything from her, she did it by herself. Not the asshole. Kay wasn't involved in her daughter's early years. You took care of her, and it seems you did a great job since she has so mommy fond memories of her childhood. I understand why Kay feels hurt, but ultimately it was her choice to keep a baby and let her be raised by you while she was in college. Every action has consequences. Not the asshole. Your stepdaughter is hurting and lashing out at you. I don't think this speech was in any way an affront to Kay. You hold a very special place in H's heart, and the speech just recorded that. Kay was the one that left for college and then post-grad out of town. She made choices that put some distance between her and H early in life, but frankly, aside the close relationship you have, it seems more an insecurity of Kay than any relationship issues between them. Kay could talk to a therapist about this or with some friends, that might help. Also, congrats to H. What was the alternative that Kay wanted? Because it seems like every solution to make Kay feel better would come at the expense of H. That you loved H a bit less during her childhood years? That you weren't there for H during the early years? That you dropped H as soon as they moved back? That when your husband and K's father passed, that H lost both her grandmother and her grandfather? To me it sounds like you did everything right for your granddaughter, and your stepdaughter to complain about it seems very much about appeasing her own guilt. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Kay wasn't there for H's formative years. All the encouraging came from Kay choosing to be away for those years. Yeah, it hurts, but she has to realize that it was her life choices that things end up the way they are right now. Not the asshole. You stepped in when Kay couldn't. Kay just wanted to be a part-time mom and pressure her own career, nothing wrong here, and it is super she had the help from you and your husband. But you were the one making sacrifice for the child, putting your job career on hold to raise H. You were there, and yes, this were very important memories for H. Kay did what was right for her and studied. But she can't get that time back or think it will be eliminated after 7 years. And it seems like she tries to want to be that mother so badly, that she wants to compete with you instead of being glad that her daughter had a mother figure as a little child, when she wasn't able to be this figure, and to then find the role working best for her and H, instead of trying to push something that wasn't there.